Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. We're talking sexual abuse in general, but sexual abuse in particular. And we're here with Sue Dathon and Velika Lawrence. Very interesting information coming out of this program so far. And I mean, this thing is so moving. The stories that you're sharing, the information that you're providing. I know that our viewers are just taking this all in and trying to understand, how our agencies work, our local agencies. There is so much abuse going on in society, and probably, some of you out there don't understand how prevalent it is. I keep on saying that, but the places I've been in this society have shown me or told me how prevalent sexual abuse is. There was a statistic that Dr. Bird, Jacqueline Bird, shared with me some time ago that, oh Lord, I don't want to misquote her, but it was well over 50% of women, their first sexual contact was forced.
Yes.
Okay? And I mean, just considering this, the first sexual contact for well over 50% of St. Lucian women was forced. That is rape. Okay?
It's usually between the ages of like 13 and... What was that?
I would say 8 to 13.
No, I was trying to, because I think it was an actual study that
Yes.
came from. So I was trying to remember what,
Yes.
because I read it, but I was trying to remember the exact ages that they quoted from there.
Okay.
How are our agencies dealing with something that is so prevalent? And do we have the agencies that are necessary to deal with abuse?
We do, sort of. I know that Human Services and Family Court deals with underage children. And I know Mrs. King has been a huge supporter of what we're doing. And we've been able to refer any younger people that come to us to her. And they find a way to make sure that the case is taken to court, or to figure out what that victim who is underage needs and how they can help. I can't speak to all the other agencies. What I will say is that we shouldn't be doing what we're doing now in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, all this has been done all over the world already,
Right.
and now we're trying to create a wheel.
We have just
when those
started
wheels have been invented a long
rape
time ago.
support group because survivors didn't have that. We don't have, and we're going to quote survivors that came forward as part of the study in saying that we needed better resources. They needed somewhere to call, somewhere to go, somewhere that they felt safe going. And we're not judging any of the people that are in the positions, but we're quoting what was said from survivors. So people who've been through what we have and have come to us have said that.
Did you have any place to go when you experienced your abuse? You, Velika, you as well?
I didn't.
As far as outside of your family support group?
Not that I know of, not that I tried to, but with...
Did you know of any place
No,
that
I
you could have
didn't.
gone to?
No.
And at the time, there was no mandatory reporting. So whereas a teacher knew and the principal of the school knew, nothing was done. So these are the things that need to be in place. If it's mandatory reporting, it has to be that it's mandatory. It can't be mandatory for Soufre and not mandatory for Compre. It has to be that a teacher knows or a counselor knows, and it is reported, because if the child comes to you and they tell you, it's because they've worked up the courage and they feel you're going to do something. You're going to help them. They're telling you because they want help. So when they tell you and you do nothing and you don't report and it goes nowhere, it's re-victimization, but you're also letting them down and you're further damaging them, because they're not going to seek help from anybody else, because the one place they went has turned them down, and you were the first responder in most cases and you've dropped the ball. So who's to say that if I go to somewhere else the same thing won't happen? And then it's going to take a hell of a lot of courage now to work up the strength, the energy, everything to come and now sit down with somebody else and tell that story again, and then the anxiety of waiting to see what's going to happen, only to find out that nothing happens.
And God forbid the perpetrator finds out in the meantime and you get abused again or punished by that perpetrator again for that, for speaking. But speaking from a pro-safe point of view, because pro-safe actually stands for positive reactions over secrets and fear. And we like to focus on solutions and healing because we already know what the mess is in our society, and there's mess in every society. So moving forward, and to kind of summarize what Sue says, is we want to see follow through, long-term, and validation for survivors and victims and survivors. We want to find out where's the rehabilitation, where is that? Where's the legislation and policy that shows that we see that this as a human rights issue, that we care about our people, we care about ourselves. It's not those people over there. It's all of us. It's within our homes, it's within our communities, it's within our offices, it's everywhere. And then, of course, things like shelters and places for people to actually physically go to when a young girl or young boy calls up a hotline and says that this is the situation, this is what's happening to me right now, I'm sitting here, I'm bleeding, this is what's happening to me, I don't know if I'm pregnant, I don't know if this, I mean, whatever crisis mode that this person is in, what can you actually do for them?
Just actually having the hotline to call.
Right.
Yeah, so somebody to speak to it.
What is being done is the
because
question.
we don't have
what
a functioning hotline. At least I'll say functioning hotline.
And then just one more thing is the fact that the horror stories, the ones that the young people who have gotten raped like by the side of the road, or some sort of horror story, some gruesome horror story, got chopped and raped and cut up, and these types of stories have made it to the news because of course they're out there in the bush and you can see them hanging over this or doing whatever. They run in the news for a few moments, we do talk shows about them, and then
that's the end of it.
Yeah, but what about the girl who she's sitting down watching the news talking about this girl that just got killed and raped and killed, and right after the news gets turned off, her uncle, her dad, her babysitter's brother, her teacher, or his, boys and girls, they know what their fate is about to be in about 5 minutes as soon as the news goes off. It happens to them every night. What about that person?
Now you told me what the acronym for ProSafe is, but what is ProSafe all about? You started talking about it, but let's go into some detail about ProSafe. What ProSafe seeks to do, and how the two of you are involved with ProSafe.
We kind of have two different segments to ProSafe. Vel has always been more passionate about the community and the family and addressing those issues, and I've always been more dead on about sexual assault, and so that's kind of the two sectors.
Yeah, I know about her in the community, getting out there. I know about that.
So, well, there you go. There you go. So that's what ProSafe is. We kind of formed this after speaking and deciding to come back home, and the whole aim of this is to fill the void, because like we've just pointed out, we don't have a hotline, people feel the confidentiality isn't there, we don't have people who are actual victim advocates who are there for the survivor and only the survivor. We're not talking about a nurse or a doctor or a police officer. We're talking about
somebody who has been through it and who can identify with victims.
Not only necessarily been through it, but who is trained to hold their hand through it. Because if you do a rape kit after being raped, you're uncomfortable. It's very invasive. So you need somebody that's going to walk you through it, explain what's happening, explain to you that you don't have to do this, but this is why you can.
But the best person to do that is someone who has been through it and knows, what it feels.
Yes.
I
will say yes.
Well, yes.
Well, I don't know that I'm biased because I've not been through it, but I could just imagine that the best person to do it would be someone who has been through it and who knows what the long-term effects are.
Of course,
when you look at, because we've had sort of resistance where it comes to that. You look at people who are drug addicts, right? And they've been on whatever form of drug for years. They clean up their act and they're hired into the drug facility to then aid others that are coming in because they know what that person is going through firsthand. And that's what we've been selling. Yes, we are survivors. Yes, we were victims. However, it does not define who we are. And in and of itself, I think it's chosen our paths in life. We can't say what we would have done had this not happened to us. We can only say where we are now because it has happened to us. And so while you can be trained to do it, I'm not knocking the person who is trained because they will understand. I think because we've been through it, when we say we know what you're going through, we mean it. It's not that we read what you're going through. We know. And so we're able to then sit back and say, all right, yes, I can understand, but we were there, and this is what's going to happen. These are the steps. This is, it's not just reading from a textbook. It's not just pulling stuff out of wherever you think it's necessary to make that person feel that you know what you're talking about, or to comfort them, because they will know that you're bullshitting them.
Right. Well, I agree, but to acknowledge and support and encourage those who have not been actual survivors, there is something called empathy, and there's also something called secondary trauma, where if you know that this has happened to me, Clinton, and let's say you and I are friends or whatever the case may be, just the fact that you're the one who's there for me, you in and around the situation, in a way you feel for me, and so you understand it as well. And we want to validate and be grateful for caretakers in the field who have not actually been actual victim survivors, but are committed, because that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
You have to have a true passion for what you do in any field, but specifically obviously in this one,
because of the
so that you don't drop the ball.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a break right now. When we come back, we'll take your calls. We'll also continue our discussion with Sue and Velika. Also, we'll discuss the event that you're planning for the 14th of February, and it's a worldwide program that St. Lucia will be a part of. So stay with us. We'll discuss that when we come back.